afternoon all. I would like first of all to thank you for being here, and as was explained, I spent 3 days in South Sudan. This was an opportunity to meet with His Excellency the President of the Republic, as well as the First Vice President and members of the Government of South Sudan. It was also an opportunity to meet with the UNMISS team, the head of UNMISS, David Shearer, Special Representative of the Secretary General, and senior leadership, and the entire team of UNMISS. And yesterday I was visiting Malakal, meeting with the local authorities, but also with the UNMISS team, as well as representatives of UN agencies, both in the humanitarian as well as on the development side. We addressed the political process, the different initiatives that are ongoing, and that are all in their own way contributing to advancing the cause of bringing back peace and stability in South Sudan. We discussed the IGAD initiative towards the revitalization of the peace agreement, and clearly it is a very important and positive thing for that the countries in the region are being more engaged in helping South Sudan return to peace. So as you know, the UN has welcomed and supported this new engagement by IGAD, and we look forward to that process moving forward. We also discussed the efforts that are being made by countries in the region, particularly Uganda, trying to help in reuniting SPLA, and there again, it is, of course, a positive thing to help stakeholders and parties sit around the table in dialogue and resolve their issues, and certainly this is a process that can help the peace effort. I also had the pleasure not only to discuss the national dialogue with the South Sudanese authorities, but also to have a meeting with the co-chair of the national dialogue and his colleagues, and so we were briefed about the progress made in that process, and this is certainly also a process that can be a helpful instrument in bringing together constituencies and communities and helping them resolve their difference, and especially at the local level. And as you know, the UN has been already providing some support, particularly by way of training to the national dialogue. And I told my interlocutors that we would be continuing to follow this process very, very closely, that we certainly hope that, as I say, it will be a very useful tool in helping those efforts towards peace. Certainly, I think the efficiency and effectiveness of that process will be enhanced and will be all the more there as that process will be as inclusive as possible. And we certainly look forward to efforts in that direction. The UN, as I say, will continue to follow that process very closely, and as it will be moving forward, this South Sudanese-led process, we will see and assess to what extent we can possibly continue and even enhance our support to the national dialogue. As I said, I mean, all these initiatives they're different in nature, but they complement and they should complement each other they all point to the same direction. They all aim at the same objectives, which is helping the return of peace and stability to South Sudan. And certainly we will welcome further progress in that direction. We also discussed the security situation in South Sudan. We expressed concern that in spite of the unilateral ceasefire that was decided by the authorities, fightings are continuing in different areas of the country, and it's certainly a matter of concern. It's a matter of concern because the continuation of fighting is certainly an obstacle to further progress in the political track, and it's also a matter of concern because these fightings obviously have a very serious impact on the population and on our effort to bring humanitarian assistance to that population. So we call on all parties to stop the fighting and to make all efforts so that we have a cessation of this fighting in South Sudan. We also discussed the question of RPF, the Regional Protection Force. The deployment of RPF is, as you know, ongoing. It has been probably slower than all of us would have hoped for, but things are now accelerating, which is a good thing. A number of units have already been deployed in Juba. A number of other units will be deploying soon in the coming months. We are making every possible effort to expedite that process, and we're encouraging the troop contributing countries also to do their best to have as rapid a deployment as possible, and certainly we also need the support and cooperation of the South Sudanese government to help in expediting the procedures that are needed to operationalize the deployment of RPF. It's a teamwork, as was said by one of the ministers with whom I met. Everyone has its own share of responsibility, and I think working together we will achieve that deployment. We also underlined that once deployed, the RPF will free up some capacity of UNMISS that are currently deployed in Juba, and that these capacity we will be able to use them in other areas of South Sudan, thereby helping in the stabilization of these areas. I was appraised of an incident that occurred on the 2nd of August on the Nimbule-Juba road, where a convoy was ambushed by attackers, and as a result of that, 4 civilians were killed, and I think one of our colleagues was injured, and the driver of one of the vehicles was also killed. So we were very sad for that incident. We express our condolences to the families and friends of those who died, and this is an example of where, with the deployment of RPF, then those capacities that are currently deployed in Juba, we may be able to use them to help secure these areas, these roads, so that we minimize the risk of this incident and we increase the level of security. Last, about the humanitarian situation, we are concerned because this is a situation that remains quite serious. The UN as a whole, UNMISS and the agencies and those who work with them are doing their best to help as many people as possible, and doing it in very difficult situations, very, very difficult and sometimes dangerous conditions. As you know, quite an important number of humanitarian workers have been either injured or have even lost their lives over the last year. while trying to help the population. The UN is acting totally impartially. We're helping everyone in South Sudan, irrespective of where they belong. We don't look at ethnic or religious or any other affiliation. We're helping everyone, and I really appreciated that this impartiality was recognized by the leadership during my meetings with them. So we are determined to continue doing our best helping the population. My visit to Malakal was quite informative on the efforts that are being made there to support the population there, the IDPs, but also the population as a whole, again, irrespective of their affiliations or anything else. And we had a good meeting with local authorities in Malakal, and we agreed that we should continue work together and increase our cooperation in order to help the return of stability and also generate better opportunities for the population there. And of course, we look forward to a cooperation from the South Sudanese government to help us in this very challenging but necessary effort to help the population in getting access to humanitarian relief. So with this, I will stop. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm ready to answer your questions.
My question goes direct to the Undersecretary. In your meeting with the government, you said that peace will not move forward if the war not stopped. So what will make the war to stop? That's my first question. My second question is about the RPF, the Development of Regional Protection Force. People have been waiting, the people in this country, they have been waiting for the deployment. So what caused the delay, and when will the RPF be in Juba?
I cannot see a situation where the cessation of fighting would not help the prospect for peace, and also would not help the population in relieving them of the enormous difficulties that they're facing as a result of fighting. So this is the spirit in which I called on all the parties to do their best so that the fighting will stop in this country. As far as the RPF is concerned, well, you're right, there were delays, and I think what is important is to look ahead. Now, as I say, it's moving forward. It's moving forward at a faster pace. We are quite gratified by this evolution, and as I say, we're doing our best really in working with the authorities of South Sudan and with the TCCs to further advance this deployment. RPF is deploying as per the mandate that was given to it by the Security Council. It's an integral part of UNMISS. It's not a different force, it's part of UNMISS, but it has a mandate that is specific to Juba. I think it is important to underline what I've just said previously. We already have some substantial capacity deployed here in Juba, and those capacity will be, we will be able to use them elsewhere to the benefit of stability in security in South Sudan, and we'll be working with the government, obviously, to determine where these units and these capacity can be of help. As far as the RPF is concerned, we would certainly hope that RPF will help increase the climate of confidence both here in Juba, but also, and maybe importantly so, vis-a-vis the international community. We certainly look forward to the international community as enhanced confidence in the stability of South Sudan. We look forward to international investors considering going to South Sudan or returning to South Sudan, and we would certainly hope that having this presence in Juba would help. We do recognize that the situation in Juba is much, the security situation has certainly improved as compared with last year. Well, this is certainly something that has to be factored in, but certainly this force can help in creating an enhanced climate of confidence, which I think would be very important for this country. I should add that we will, and when the RPF will be deployed, we will regularly review the situation regarding its role, regarding the evolution of the situation in Juba and the overall situation in South Sudan in terms of security and political environment, and we'll see whether later down the road there are reasons to recommend some adjustment in mandates. But we're not there yet at the moment. As I was telling you, we are really focusing on expediting the deployment of RPF.
You said at the meeting some of the government leaders, you also went up to Malakal, and as you did say, fighting is still continuing in other parts of the country, and this leads to a number of human rights abuses, like people are being displaced, there's killing, there's people not getting food. I'm just wondering whether you have noted this as a concern, and also would like to understand probably maybe your engagement with the government leaders. What message or what have you been sharing or telling them as in regards to, stop to these rights abuses?
Thank you very much. Well, as I was telling you, I mean, I certainly expressed concern about the fightings and about the consequences of fighting on the population. Inevitably, this kind of situation has serious implication on a population that is already under strain and under difficult situation. So I did express those concerns, and again express the hope and the call on all the parties to do their level best to try and bring an end to fightings. On the RPF deployment, we have currently achieved the deployment of units from Nepal, Bangladesh, 150 men, which is the entire company from Nepal. I think it's a rapid reaction, a high readiness company. It's almost the same. The Bangladesh unit, which is engineering, is partially deployed, and we are in the process of expediting the deployment of Rwandan full battalion. They haven't arrived yet, but I think they're next online to be deployed parallel to the completion of the deployment of the engineering unit from Bangladesh. And as I said, we're working very hard with other troop contributing countries like Ethiopia, Kenya, and others in order to also see the deployment of the units as soon as possible. As I say, it's a question of months, hopefully, if everything goes well, but I think we're on track.
One of our networks in WOW reported that about 295 people being displaced recently from the Celia and Bazia and Paile counties. And most of them, they are children and women. They are evacuating from their places all the way to UN compound in WOW town. What does that mean is UN can't reach all the way to the counties because there aren't even humanitarian agencies to come and to pay a visit to them because they are eating tree leaves and roots. Also, they mentioned that there were an ambush happened last Friday on 28th. That's the commissioner for Visalia County. He said that, and he's saying also the security situation is calm, and there is ambush in the middle of the road. What UNMISS reaction towards that, and what's the action that you guys will take so you can reach people in the counties? Because they're taking risk all the way from village to town. Does that mean you're just concentrating in town only? Thank you.
Yeah, I will answer briefly, and maybe SRSG David Shearer will want to complement, because obviously these are very specific questions concerning one particular area, and he's certainly a better judge of what has to be done than me. But what I can tell you is that UNMISS has yes, relatively substantial means, but by definition it cannot be deployed everywhere. What we can do, though, is try our best to deploy, to reach out where we learn that population are in urgent need. And I would just take one recent example, which is the town of Lacroix, where we had a group of people who was in desperate need of food and water, and really left helpless. And the UN UNMISS, I think, did a tremendous job of deploying quite rapidly, so that in a couple of days those population who didn't have access to anything, even to water, could be rescued, and hundreds of lives have been saved. So this is an example of what we can do now. On the specific case of WOW, then maybe I'll leave it to David if you want to complement on.
Just very briefly, because I exactly as the Under-Secretary General just said, I mean, what we're, as much as possible, we're trying to get out of the towns. That's been the whole rationale of UNMISS now: robust, nimble, getting out, and proactive, trying to get to places before there are problems. But in WOW, as you know, there have been large numbers of people coming into WOW town, coming to our camps, coming to the taking refuge with the Catholic churches, doing a remarkable job in housing many of these people as well. We will do our best to try and get out of the towns to these various places. What we don't want to see is people coming into town, then being in camps, being dependent on the security and the services that we can provide, and then not being able to be in their own towns and their own places where they're not planting and they're losing their own livelihoods. So as much as possible, the focus over the last few weeks in UNMISS has been to push out as much as we possibly can and get to those people.
You did mention that you engaged the leadership of the country regarding the efforts by the regional bloc, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, on the South Sudan peace process. But recently, this particular body did say that they are going to organize a forum for the revitalization of the peace process, but they are going to exclude one key figure in the South Sudan, that is the former first Vice President, Lacroix, from the process. As the United Nations, what do you think of that? Don't you think this exclusion from this forum will affect the outcome of this forum? Then the second question is, this is your first visit to South Sudan as the UN Peacekeeping Chief, and you have visited several places like Malakal. In your observation and taking to what you have seen in South Sudan, what key message do you have for the leadership of this country and the people of South Sudan, given the current suffering which is ongoing? Thank you.
I mean, it's a very good thing to see that IGAD is being more engaged. Bringing peace and stability to Sudan is certainly the primary responsibility of to South Sudan is a primary responsibility of the South Sudanese themselves, but they obviously deserve and need support, and the UN is supporting, the countries in the region, the AU is supporting, and this IGAD initiative really is a very positive thing. Now, it is not for me to tell IGAD whom to, how to conduct this initiative and whom to invite. IGAD is IGAD, and we support their initiative, but certainly it is for them to determine how best that initiative will be moved forward. And I know they're in very close coordination with the leadership in South Sudan and with other stakeholders. And so we're supportive of that initiative, and we look forward to its positive development. What are the key messages? Well, the key message is probably the UN is determined to help South Sudan, to help its population, to help the return of peace and stability to South Sudan. And this is why UNMISS is deployed here. This is why we have UN agencies. It's primarily, of course, for the South Sudanese themselves to lead that process. But we're here to help. We're doing our level best efforts to support both in terms of the security environment, the political process, and as well as supporting the population. We're doing it impartially. As I say, we're helping the population, all South Sudanese, irrespective of their ethnic or religious or any other affiliation, and that's why we're here for. So I think that would be the key message, and obviously we need to closely cooperate and to be supported in our efforts by the South Sudanese and particularly the South Sudanese authorities. This is why we have a very regular and close dialogue with the leadership in South Sudan. This is why also I came to have that, or to continue that kind of dialogue with His Excellency the President and other senior leaders. I think with the good efforts of all, with the good efforts also of the region of IGAD and the AU, and also those, the donors, hopefully we will be able to bring about further progress in South Sudan and help reverse that very serious humanitarian situation.
My question is, Human Rights Watch released a report this week. It documented a series of human rights violations in Kajukeji and Pajok in the Yei River State and Imoton State, I think. And therefore, they're calling the UN, EU, and US to impose arms embargo on South Sudan, and also to sanction 9 leaders from the government and opposition sides. So I was wondering, what is the stance of the UN on that? Secondly, you said the RPF will minimize its security on the roads, Juba and Nimule roads. I was wondering, because what we know is that the mandate of RPF is to protect key installations within Juba, including airport. So I was wondering, how is that possible? Number 3, you said
we'll just keep it to 2.
Yeah, you said fighting is continuing in some parts of the country. So in which areas specifically, if you could tell us? Thank you.
Yeah, on the RPF, just to be clear, RPF is part of UNMISS. It's not a separate force, it's part of UNMISS. What I said is we already have here in Juba units that are deployed. When RPF units are deployed, then we will be able to use these units that are currently here, that are already deployed here in Juba, to help secure other areas. We will do it in coordination with the government, but as I said, these units could be of help to assist in the protection of these roads, these regions that are in need of additional resources to help bring stability. Well, certainly, you know, we are calling on all to respect human rights, to adhere to these values, and you know, it's human rights is one of the key pillars of the UN. So it's certainly a very important message to all in South Sudan, as well as everywhere where we have a peacekeeping operation, and actually beyond as well. So, you know, we're not in the business, neither UNMISS nor the humanitarian agency are in the business of sanctioning. We are here to help the South Sudanese. Very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.